Good evening. My name is Mike Wickers. I'm the mayor of Cottonwood Heights, and this is the business meeting for the Cottonwood Heights City Council for Tuesday, February 6th, 2024. We want to thank everyone for being here today. We have a special group with us specifically. You might notice some people in the audience that are a little bit younger than you would usually see here. And isn't that just amazing? We're thankful for this group that has been able to come and join us. And I might be a little more descriptive than usual as we describe what we're doing today to help them hopefully follow along and maybe even gain an appreciation for civics and city government. So I want to thank them and everyone else for being with us this evening. So to begin, I've asked our Records, Culture, and HR Department Director, Paula Meligar, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Item number 3 on our agenda this evening is a citizen comment period. So for those of you that have not been to a meeting before, we like to give our citizens 3 minutes to come up and to tell the city council whatever they want. Each speaker, like I said, will have 3 minutes. Please review the public comment procedures on the last page of tonight's agenda. If you haven't filled out a speaker card, please do so and hand it to a staff member who will get it to me. When making citizen comments, we request that you speak into the microphone so that your name can be heard and that we can hear your comments. The audience should avoid expressions of support so that all speakers will feel comfortable in communicating their thoughts. The council is here to listen, but you also shouldn't expect to engage in a back and forth dialogue. If you do raise questions, the staff will follow up later with you. So we have 2 different periods tonight where we're going to hear from the public. And this is specific to not Tavachi. So the first person that we're going to call up this evening is Frank Mylar. Hi, Frank.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with you guys. I'm Frank Mylar, and I'm running for Utah State Attorney General. I actually live in Cottonwood Heights and have for many years, and my law office is actually just down the road. And I've been practicing law for over 36 years. This is a very important position, the Attorney General, and most of the candidates have little to none experience. One candidate has at least worked in the AG's office, but she's only worked in one area called education. I've worked in education in the AG's office. I worked there 12 years. I worked for 3 different attorneys generals. Since I actually ran for Attorney General in 2000, and since then I started my own practice here in Cottonwood Heights, and I've been here ever since 2000. And also I want to say that most of what I do is represent cities and county governments when they're sued, which is exactly the same kind of thing the AG's office does. I'm the only candidate who's argued before the Utah Supreme Court on numerous occasions, the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals on numerous occasions, the Court of Appeals on numerous occasions, and I've briefed cases before the US Supreme Court. None of them have that kind of experience. I'm the only attorney running that has actually managed other attorneys. Now, 1 or 2 of them, I'm not saying they're not nice people, but would you want an auditor who had never done an audit, but they just head of the Association of Auditors or a lobbyist for auditors? Would you want a police chief who had never actually conducted an arrest? This is the kind of thing you have to look at. When you're an attorney, you need somebody that's actually represented real people. And that's very important because I've had people come in my office and many times they can't even afford to pay. There's been many cases where I've represented people without pay. So why can you trust me over the others? There's been problems and scandals with the last 3 attorneys general. And I suggest to you that we need an attorney and not a politician as our next attorney general. And only I have that kind of experience and depth that I can draw from. I also know national groups and I've been involved. I've actually taught before the National Association of Attorneys Generals on many occasions. This is the kind of expertise that we absolutely need as our next Attorney General. Some will say that have little experience saying, well, we don't need to do that because we're just managing attorneys. Well, one, I do have an MBA, so I have some experience in that, but also I'm the only attorney that has actually managed attorneys inside the office and outside the Attorney General's office. So it doesn't make any sense to say, oh, we're just going to manage attorneys. The other thing is this: if you don't know the broad areas of law like I do that you are confronted as the Attorney General, you will not be in the ballpark. You will be trusting other people, and the other people are going to be people who are pushing influence. They're going to be lobbyists. There's going to be others. So I ask you to vote for me for Attorney General. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Thanks for coming up. Okay, Scott Bracken. Hi, Scott.
Hello, this is a first-time experience after 19 years of the city being incorporated. I wanted to talk about the discussion earlier on the Fort Union traffic study. First, I appreciate the council looking into the data and at the root causes. I did want to note that the city of Cottonwood Heights has had the reputation for strong DUI enforcement. That happened just after we formed our own police department. That reputation, however, subsided when one council member constantly attacked the police and another used some of those suspicions and the pandemic and some other things to cut the budget, and we lost some of those positions. And while I don't want to see self-serving, I am very glad that we as a council restored those positions a few months ago. Even with that, social media comments promoting dangerous and inappropriate solutions still are coming up. Things like ignoring the 85th percentile and that speed is a primary core issue of all the things and all the negative things that have happened on that road recently. I was interested to find out that the 3-year speed related crashes, there was 15 out of 392 that were speed related. I think that's important. I also commented to Mr. Ship that I don't think I've ever seen a speed study that took everything out under 30 miles an hour. I understand his reasoning for that, but that means the actual 85ths are actually quite a bit lower. All this to me means that people are comfortable at the posted speed limit. And so I agree with seemed what the consensus was to work on different ways to slow traffic and calm things on Fort Union Boulevard to make it safer. There's been a lot of things mentioned about design barriers and whatnot. My only caution there is even at slow speeds, barriers get hit. You only need to go by the raised crossing up here on Bengal or down on Oak Creek Drive to see that occasionally people hit those, whether or not they're DUI or not. Maybe most of them are DUI. I don't know. That would be up to the chief to tell us. But when we're considering designs, especially on a road that's as busy as Fort Union, we need to be very conscientious of that. But I appreciate the tenor of the discussion and what seemed like the consensus going forward.
Thank you, Scott. So I wanted to mention that, and I failed to do so at the beginning. I apologize. Our video is not working this evening. So if you are online and are listening, you probably noticed that, and we will try to get that fixed before our next meeting. Runar Bowman. Hi, Runar.
Good evening, Mayor. I'd like to start off just by going back to, I think it was this last city council meeting where we had the presentation on the expenditures, revenue and expenses for the city for the fiscal year. And one thing I noticed, and maybe I'm incorrect on this, but I did notice, I think that it seems to be that expenses are increasing more so than revenues. And I can see why that could be happening. But I just wanted maybe something, just a word of caution that, that can get kind of out of control pretty quick. If we start spending beyond our revenue increases, we got some problems. And just an observation. I'm not making any grand statement about that. The other thing I wanted to mention was in the work session tonight, there was a lot of talk about Fort Union Boulevard. And I happen to live right along that area. I live very close to Hillside Plaza. And so I I drive on Fort Union Boulevard quite a bit, going to Home Depot and other places. And, you know, going above 40 miles an hour is pretty much impossible. I mean, that street is very busy and a lot of cars on it. And to try to slow down that traffic, in other words, reduce throughput, really bad idea. You're going to have some unforeseen consequences that won't be good. So I strongly encourage this council not to go down that route of trying to slow down that venue, because people want to get where they want to go, including me. And I can't go above 40. I mean, once I get to Highland and going east or going west, 35, that's about it. So this talk about speeding, I don't know where that's coming from. The DUI situation, we're hiring some more officers. I guess the only thing we can say about that is that maybe their presence will have an impact. There was also talk about an emphasis on byways, which I agree is a good idea, because putting people along busy roadways like Fort Union is just a really super bad idea. It's just not the place for people to be walking or biking. It's not good. But the byways, you know, gets people off those main roads. Problem is identifying those byways and making them such that people would actually use them. That's a whole other question that someone's going to have to answer. Because unless you live right along that byway, you're probably not going to use it. You're not going to go out of your way to get to a byway. But that's my take on it. Feeding into the Cottonwood Heights Rec Center or a park makes sense, because that's where everybody goes. Cottonwood Heights Rec Center is usually popular, especially in the summer months. The other thing I wanted to comment on was some of the sustainability ideas, which I wish we get rid of that term because it doesn't mean anything. But I like the ideas to talk about the landscaping ideas. And if you wanted to get ideas for that, look at the foothills. That's a great environment as far as landscaping ideas. Thank you.
Thanks, Werner. Okay, the next comment I have is for Christian Klinger. Hi, Christian.
Good evening. Christian Klinger with the Klinger Law Firm, and I am a business owner here in Cottonwood Heights. Mr. Mayor, distinguished city council members, distinguished chiefs, and Mr. City Gym Manager, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak this evening. There are significant problems with speeding and traffic issues throughout Cottonwood Heights, specifically along Creek Road and Danish. There are other significant areas of concern throughout the city and along Fort Union Boulevard, where there have been at least 3 pedestrian accidents, including 1 death since October 2023. Salt Lake City, Park City, and now Provo have taken increased measures to install speed reduction and traffic calming measures throughout their cities, whether reducing posted speed limits, adding speed bumps, street narrowing devices, or roundabouts. While I'm aware that there are certain national studies that attempt to dissuade cities from installing speed bumps for various reasons, it is worth noting that Salt Lake City, Park City, and Provo have put the safety of their citizens first above the national traffic studies. And those cities have recently installed numerous new speed bumps, street narrowing devices, roundabouts as traffic and speed reduction measures in the past 2 years. Some city leaders and some citizens think Cottonwood Heights does not have significant speeding or traffic problems. We anticipate a report later this evening from the police chief that things are running fine, matters have improved, and the report will address increased officers and patrols that have recently been made. While we appreciate the chiefs and the police officers' increased efforts, there are still ongoing problems. There are several other individuals and business leaders who wanted to be here this evening to hear the police chief's report. However, due to the last-minute posting of the 2 agendas, they were not able to attend this evening. Evidence is being gathered to rebut the claims and the police report that traffic and roadways are improving. Citizens who have doorbell cameras or other security cameras on their property are willing, and they are starting to download their videos and to submit the evidence. And that evidence will be presented to the city regarding the numerous speeding and other traffic problems throughout Cottonwood Heights. As a business owner in Cottonwood Heights and as legal counsel to several citizens, we ask that our mayors and the mayor and the city council and the city manager hear our concerns about speeding and the need to have roadways secure and to take increased action to implement speed reduction and traffic calming measures. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. Okay, the next person I have is Alan Mark. Hi, Alan.
Council. First off, I was at the 4 o'clock meeting and I liked a lot of what I heard. Very, very happy for that. And hopefully the words will get turned into action. That's what I'm hoping for. So what along that line, and I guess I should say my name for the record, Alan Mark, Cottonwood Heights resident. We put this application, which I might say is a petition, last year. I don't know where we stand on it. We haven't received any formal feedback for it, and so it'd be nice to get something from you. I sent a 37-second video on Sunday night after your response, Mr. Mayor, and it was just me with my daughter going to Trader Joe's, and there were 4 cars that just went right through the red light as we were stopped right at 20th East and the creek. And then walking my dog the day before, going across 3000 East around the Cottonwood Trail, and 1 car nearly took us out, just right through the red light, and another one just sailed through when we had the walk light, sailed through the intersection and just looked at us, but just continued on. So these things are happening, and regardless of what the studies say, maybe there's a way of, and this came from Gary Thorpe, who could not attend tonight. He talked to us last year. And maybe there's a way of getting cameras out just to see what's going on. So you don't rely upon me, because I don't want to be doing this full time. And that way you can get a better sense. And I appreciate everything that the police chief has done. There was a patrol car in front of my house after I sent the previous email, which was one way to get a great response. But it was almost hiding in plain sight. And so I think from any direction you can pretty well see the patrol car. If there's a way, and here's the weird thing: when people are coming down Danish Road, because I was walking my dog that way, instead of doing 35 and 40, a lot of them were doing under 25. So it had an impact, and they were thinking maybe there's another patrol car down the road. So there is an impact, but that means you have to have cars everywhere or people, police everywhere, and that's almost impossible. So maybe think of other creative ways just to get a sense of what's really going on, and then put maybe 2 patrol cars, one to see if people obey the rules at the beginning, and then maybe one down the road to catch them when they're not doing something like that. So hopefully we can get something rolling on that. Happy to help. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alan. Appreciate you coming. Okay, Tim, anything you want to add into the record from online? I don't see any other comment cards, at least for the general comment.
There have been several comment cards that have been submitted. I forwarded those to the city council. Just to reiterate which individuals they were. So they included a comment from Spencer Jacobs, and that was entered into the record and forwarded to the council. One from Mary Ellen Johnson, one from Dennis Iverson, one from Jeff Davies, one from Hannah Montoya Lazar, one from Christine Garrett, and Audrey Pines. All of these are part of the record. I don't read each of them, but they've been submitted to the council. We also received information from the applicant from Tabachi as well that was forwarded to you. So that's all I have.
Great. It looks like online, Sarah Anderson has her hand up. So if you'll unmute her, Paula, we'll hear from Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, thank you for taking my comments. I live in District 2. My name's Sarah Anderson. I'm born and raised in Cottonwood Heights, longtime resident here. I won't tell you how many years, but decades, I'll say. I am joining the council meeting tonight because I am currently working on a petition in Cottonwood Heights to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. As we've seen across the country, a lot of different cities have done this, and I would like to see Salt Lake City do the same. And I'd love for Cottonwood Heights to be a leader in this effort. Since over 35,000 Palestinians have been killed since October 7th. And we know that we have Israeli hostages, we have Palestinian hostages being held. And we're witnessing an unparalleled catastrophe, a humanitarian disaster unfold before us. And I believe it's the first time in history where we've been able to see this happen in real time. And I feel that we are also able to do something about it in real time. And so I'm bringing this to the city council. I sent the petition signatures over to, my goodness, I can't think of her name, our brand new representative in District 2, forgive me, this afternoon. So I'm still gathering signatures. We have 25 so far. But I've really just started canvassing today, and I've been overwhelmed by the response that I've received from people. There's so many people who are in favor, 75 to 80% of Democrats, 50 to 55% of Republicans, and they say 59 to 66% of all voters support a ceasefire, which means to stop the genocide of Palestinians. As you may have seen in the news, a week and a half ago, the ICJ determined that it's likely that Israel is committing genocide. We know this is the case. I'm hoping that Cottonwood Heights can take a stand against the genocide and show everyone in the city that we're safe by standing with progress and humanity. That's my hope. That's my purpose in coming to the meeting tonight, to bring that. And I'll continue to gather signatures. I'll continue to hopefully be able to come in person next time. That's my comment tonight.
Thank you, Sarah. So thank you for all of your comments. Before I close the citizen comment period, what I'd like to do is invite one of my good friends up. I might be putting him on the spot, but Jake Hughley has been a friend of mine for a really long time. He's the reason that these youth are here. I wonder if you would come up and tell us why you're here, Jake, and what they're trying to figure out, and who you are, and where you're all from. So.
Mayor Wickers, thank you very much for the opportunity. Mayor's a good friend of mine and somebody that I had an opportunity to coach football with as well. So the reason why we're here, I want the youth who we have responsibility. I'm a bishop of the LDS Church down on Creek Road, and those who are here with us are either members of our faith or investigating the church. They were interested in getting involved in the city, understanding more about the community. And as we asked them what activities they wanted to be involved in, this was one that came up from our leadership of our youth. And so tonight we coordinated with some of those youth who wanted to come here tonight so that they had an opportunity to share in this experience, to learn what civic responsibility is and how to get involved. And so it's opening up hopefully conversations and giving a chance for our youth to really understand that their voice matters and that they can make a difference. We want our children to vote, and we want them to be engaged in civic responsibility. That's our hope tonight, Mayor.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jake.
May I interject?
Yeah.
Yes, so I am the liaison for the council with the Youth City Council. And so for all of you who may be in 8th grade and above, this spring, in about 5 weeks from now, you'll be able to fill out an application to serve on the Youth City Council for Cottonwood Heights. So I hope that you'll look for information. We'll be trying to get that out both to Butler Middle School and Brighton High School. You can be any of those ages and serve, and we would love to have you be a part of that. I hope you'll watch for that.
You can
Thank you
count
for
on us.
being here.
Yeah, you'll count on us.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Councilmember Bro. Councilmember Holton, anything? They live in your district?
Well, I just wanted to see, could we get a raise of hands of those that are visiting? I'd love to see who, yeah, wow. That's amazing. Well, thanks for being here, and we're super excited to have you. And if any of you kids ever get the courage to come up here and tell us what you want to see happen with the future of your city, you should let us know. But thanks for coming. Thanks so much.
Great. And just so the kids know, we have a little bit of swag for you after, so don't go running anywhere. We got something for you. So, okay, having said that, I'm going to close the citizen comment period, and we'll move on to item number 4. I'm going to explain a little bit about what item number 4 is. So we are going to have a public hearing on the Tavachi annexation petition. So we have had a neighborhood that is in unincorporated Salt Lake County that is requested through petition to be incorporated into Cottonwood Heights. There are a lot of reasons for why they would want to do that. And so we have been evaluating this petition as a city council. One of the things that I'm going to have is I'm going to have our community and economic development director, Mike Johnson, come up and talk a little bit about some of the data that we've gathered and and things that we've discussed as a council about what this would mean to our city if we did annex them in. And then I'm going to open up a public hearing period for those in favor or against to come up and speak politely and respectfully towards this matter. So Mike, why don't you come on up?
Thank you, Mayor. So as you introduce this item, this is a petition from the owners within the Tavachi subdivision to annex that subdivision and an adjacent parcel from unincorporated Salt Lake County into Cottonwood Heights city limits. I'll just leave this map up for just a minute so those in attendance can look at that. It's the area in red, which again incorporates the Tavachi subdivision, which is 43 total single-family lots, plus the 50-acre parcel directly adjacent to the north. The city limits are to the left of this right now. You can kind of see the different color on the screen. It says it's labeled Cottonwood Heights City. So this is right adjacent to where the city boundary currently is. Just some background that may be helpful, again, to those in attendance tonight. A 43 lot single family subdivision was originally approved under Salt Lake County jurisdiction around 2004 and development on, I think one of the homes began around that same time. And then obviously the city incorporated in 2005. When Cottonwood Heights became a city, Tavachi was it was within city limits. And in 2011, there was a petition filed by a previous owner, previous developer, unaffiliated with the petitioners in front of you tonight, to disconnect Tavachi from Cottonwood Heights. There were some applications for rezones and development changes there that were not successful. But long story short, though, the project has now, after a period of time being undeveloped and unworked on, is now under construction as that single family subdivision under county jurisdiction. So Salt Lake County has reviewed and issued and inspected all of the homes being constructed up there today. Access, as many will know, is via a single private roadway. The base of the roadway is still within Cottonwood Heights jurisdiction today. And then as it winds up the hillside there, it enters county territory. And it's a privately owned roadway with a bridge and an entry gate and all kinds of things there. My understanding is there's only one point of ingress and egress. And as such, there are fire department standards for those homes for fire mitigation, things like fire sprinklers and things like that. Typically, under today's ordinances, a secondary access point would be required after about 30 homes, unless there's additional mitigation. And again, that petition also includes that 50-acre parcel to the north, which is not part of Tavachi, but is owned by the same owner that owns the large gravel pit property there at the mouth of the canyon. Just to briefly summarize some of the concerns and potential benefits that have been discussed in various discussions and work sessions to date. As Tim shared in the work session, we did an analysis of if this were incorporated into the city, what would the additional cost to the city be to serve that residential development? And the answer is very minimal. It wouldn't require any additional staffing from a public safety standpoint, from a public works standpoint, or from any sort of development services standpoint. I think the data from Unified Fire was that there have been 6 calls in the last 2 or 3 years combined for fire services. Currently, that is within the Unified Police territory for police services. And Chief Russo explained some of the changes that Unified Police and the County Sheriff have undergone, which make calls for service there for police aid a little bit tricky right now, not being part of Cottonwood Heights. So from a public safety standpoint, response times would certainly be quicker, if I'm quoting you right, Chief Russo, if this were part of Cottonwood Heights. From a permitting standpoint, about 2/3 or 1/3, close to a half of the homes have received permitting entitlement, are either finished and occupied or under construction today. That would leave that additional half or so that would have to be permitted and reviewed by Cottonwood Heights. One point that we've tried to make clear is while Salt Lake County's ordinances are probably similar to the city's ordinances, they're not identical. So there may be new development standards or things like that that would apply to the unbuilt homes moving forward that the existing homes didn't have to go through today. So you may see some differences there. We've talked at length about the private road that services that site. The public comment that was sent to you today by the HOA, by the petitioner, I believe was a narrative, of them reaffirming their intention to keep that road private. And then I believe they submitted some financial documentation for the HOA to show how funds are collected and utilized for maintenance. And again, we can get into more questions and answers if you have them, but it is a private road today. The city's desire certainly would be to have it stay that way, but as we discussed in the work session, what to do with that private road in the future would be a council policy decision if at any point in time there was a request for the city to take ownership of that. Our review has been setting that aside, assuming that the city would not maintain that because it is private. I'll stop there. Just next steps in the process. Again, continued council discussion. We were directed and the council voted to initiate the analysis of this petition, but no vote has been taken on whether to approve the annexation or not. This public hearing tonight is the first one that we're holding, and then any more council discussions that's desired will lead into a legislative decision when the council's ready. Any questions?
Questions from the council? Thanks, Mike. So I am at this point going to officially open the public hearing on the CWH annexation petition, and I have a few comment cards. The first person I will call up is Carrie Wynn. Hi, Carrie.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. Just want to take a few minutes to reiterate our position so that you can, and mostly the public, because there has been, we feel, some misinformation that we've heard about regarding our intentions with CWH. Again, we understand it did have a sordid past. America First Credit Union foreclosed on the original developer, which was probably the center of those problems back in 2011. Personally, I've been part of the management team that has managed the subdivision since then. It sat for quite a while without any desired sales by America First Credit Union. And later, about the 2018 period, they started selling lots, and we started developing the property, which is actively being developed now. Again, we have 16 current residents living there, 3 houses under sale, about another dozen that are in process of. There's only, as of today, there's only 6 current lots to be sold by the declarant. So we're moving forward. The biggest concern is obviously we have a unique situation with a one access road with a bridge system. And we want to make it clear that as I have with the mayor and other officials with Tim Tingy and so forth, it is not our intention, nor could it be, for the city to bear the costs and the responsibilities of care and upkeep for our roads. They're unique, they're slick, and so we have to take care of the snow removal ourselves, and it wouldn't be sufficient for the members up there or any visitors coming in if we had to wait for public services. So it is not only it can't happen for the residents up there and for the subdivision, nor would we be ever asking for it. We're amply sufficiently able to fund all the future short and long-term goals and repairs and upkeep of the subdivision. So it seems to be those seem to be the 2 biggest concerns with outside members, are that we will be an expensive subdivision to be incorporated in the city. We can assure people that that's not the case. In fact, it's actually opposite, because we are responsible for the maintenance, snow removal, repairs, upkeep of our roads, where the other citizens will actually get the benefit of our tax base to apply to that. I know that internet has been a desire for the Cottonwood Heights to incorporate. We already have a modern internet system that has been put up with CenturyLink in our subdivision. So we just want to be, and I've been, like I said, involved a long time. The members up there, the homeowners are nice, good people. They're all mostly local people who are anxious to be part of a good community. I appreciate your consideration and always open for any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kerry. Could I ask you one question before you
Sure.
sit down? Could you tell me a little bit of the financial guidelines you have or philosophy for maintenance of roads within the HOA that you, or the fees you collect?
Yes, currently the HOA collects standard fees for all of our long and short-term maintenance. The snow removal is, we pay for that individually each year according to cost. Some years it's been as low as $10,000. Last year it was $100,000. We are amply supplied and able to maintain our own roads. We have our own crew now that does that full time because the bridge system, if you're at all familiar with it, it's not heated, so it's slick. And so with that bridge system and we can't use salt, we have to use calcium, and we can't use steel blades, we have to use poly blades. So it's a lot of work, and for unimaginable to say a public services could handle that situation is an impossibility. And so we all understand, the members understand, that there is no way that we could allow, let alone petition, ever to have the citizens bear the burden of our unique situation up there. And so we want to be very clear about that. We have a lot of experience in that works for us, and no desire to change that for a lot of reasons. So I think that's the biggest concern. So I hope that answers your question.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Kerry.
Thank you.
I have a question. This is certainly a very hot topic in my District 4. And I want you to know, Mr. Nguyen, that I am trying to remain completely objective and consider all things. I'm wondering if you can help me to understand how the dissolution of the HOA has occurred. According to the state Commerce Department's records, they show that the HOA for your organization, because the last filing was in 2020, in 2023, it was permanently dissolved. And so can you address whether you're in the process of getting your HOA legitimately reinstated or address that?
I think there's some misinformation there. We are, far as we're aware, we're fully functioning with the state with all of our records and everything else. There have been a couple of different HOA in the past, so that would be something that is news to me that we would be happy to clear up. And so we just need to look at the direction, but we are full functioning HOA collecting dues. We believe that we are fully.
Our city attorney did look into this, and it did show that the HOA was dissolved.
Yeah, so that would be news. That's something that we would have to look at. We haven't been informed of that. We paid our licensing fees each year, so that would be something that would be news to all of us. So
Well, maybe the name, what exactly is the name of your HOA?
it's the Tavachi at Big Cottonwood Canyon
Yeah.
HOA.
Yeah, that's the one that we researched.
So we would have to take and clear that up, but that would be news to us. And so we would definitely want to, if there's anything we need to do in compliance, we are fully functioning in reality. And so if we have some loose ends that have slipped by, we would need to follow that up with our attorneys and get that rectified. We
Maybe
certainly
you
would do
could
that.
follow up with Tim Tingy.
Yes,
That'd
that would
great.
be, yes.
Great, thank
So
you.
Appreciate that's news to us.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you. Any
thanks,
other
Gary.
questions?
No,
Thank you so much.
thank you. Okay, the next person I have is Scott Bracken.
Thank you. I will try to keep this short, but I'm one of the few people that has been around since the beginning and And prior to this, my wife was on the city council when Tavachi was eventually given the subdivision rights that it has. But I do want to reiterate that the former ownership and what the city went through in 2010 and 9 doesn't apply to what's going on today. Zoning and annexation goes with the land. I think the current owners just want lower taxes and better services. That was the exact same refrain we put together as the incorporation committee, as why people wanted to incorporate as Cottonwood Heights. There was an 86% approval. We want better, more local service with more control. As stated, the private road should remain private, and it should. Failure to pay taxes, default ownership doesn't change the state law, which is very clear in saying that the users of that private access are the ones that are responsible for the maintenance. That is very clearly stated. Dozens of people or hundreds of people or thousands of people that don't understand that concept doesn't change the fact that that's what the state law says. The city doesn't go in and repair people's driveways. We don't, if I think of little Cottonwood Creek Lane where Councilman Peterson lived, if that were to go into failure, that wouldn't be on the city to fix. It's on that HOA. It would be a similar type situation. As noted in the thing, the services the services provided are incrementally a very small number. But I see a couple of benefits for them. The service levels, the emergency response is significantly improved. I think that's good for both sides. Future building has to go through our SLEDS ordinance, which we know and we would have more control over. I think that's a bonus to the city and an advantage. There was a question about the stub road and what might end up happening to it. I think that lot is probably too small to be its own lot. So I don't think it'll be a house unless they come and get a zone change, but then that's up to you guys. And one thing that I didn't know if this particular area was annexed into the Cottonwood Heights recreation service area or not. But if not, that might be something, while we don't have control over that, that's an entirely separate process. That might be something to at least discuss or look into.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate those comments. Okay, the next comment card I have is Amir Allah, I think it is. Did I say that right, Amir? Alak, sorry about that. The K wasn't, anyway.
My name's Amir Alak. I am a resident of Cottonwood Heights. I have been for, going on 8 years now. I moved here from Virginia. I'm a small business owner in the city as well. I have lived off the Creek Road area. I've lived up off of Wasatch, currently living off of Bengal, and purchased a lot in the Tavachi neighborhood. In 2020. So actually, maybe me coming in 2020 may have caused the leadership of the HOA to sort of say, we don't want anything to do with this guy. So that might be on me. Sorry, Carrie. But it's a wonderful neighborhood. I've purchased a lot right behind where my brother lives. My brother's the former president of the Salt Lake HBA and has been a resident here for 20 plus years. Utah's home, Cottonwood Heights is home. I haven't lived anywhere else. And my wife and I are moving into our home. We got our certificate of occupancy a couple weeks ago, and we're excited to move up here in the next few weeks. And Tavachi is a great neighborhood. We're self-sustaining, and for what it's worth, we're happy to be part of the community and just looking forward to contributing. Thank you.
Thank you, Amir. Okay, the next comment card I have is for Dan Kovach. You got a friend with you, Dan.
Yeah, Layla.
What's her name?
Her name's Layla.
Layla, okay.
She likes coming in to do that. There, yeah.
Chief, we probably have some canines that we could bring in over, don't we?
I wish I had more than 3 minutes, so I'll just try to be brief. I've been around here long enough to know that there was an awful lot of chicanery that went on with Tavachi that some of you that are more newer here don't know about. And Mr. Johnson's presentation neglected some of the less savory parts of what went on back and forth in the day regarding just how many units were going to go up on that hill. Frankly, that hill was beautiful before, and a bunch of eyesore houses by multimillionaires went in there. And adding another lot in there with another road is going to invite Cottonwood Heights to deal with lawsuits related to a whole bunch more housing, multifamily units, whatever the next owner really wants to put in there. As far as the bridge, I don't really want to be responsible for what will be the most expensive bridge to repair in Cottonwood Heights, should this come to pass. If it so comes to pass that we have to take this on, I would expect that a bond be given by the owners of Tavachi to indemnify not only for a bridge replacement, but for the environmental mitigation costs associated with that bridge. I think that's the only way to show protection. As far as the costs associated with bringing them on right now, I think about total life cycle costs, earthquakes, things like that. I don't think about, nothing bad happened for the last 5 years, so it's going to be dirt cheap. This is why we have insurance. Unless people don't have insurance because they think nothing bad will ever happen. I'm a little more conservative than that. So as far as Salt Lake County, they were the ones that allowed Tavachi to come in there. I know they want to get rid of these little dangling unincorporated areas, but this is their problem. This shouldn't be our problem. They're the ones that allowed this to occur. And I see no reason why we in Cottonwood Heights should let them off the hook. As far as fire and police services go, the people who live up there, they can afford their own private services. As far as I'm concerned, they make a hell of a lot more money than we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, the next comment card I have is Vasily Anakis. Vasily, how did I do?
What's that? It's Vasily.
Let's
Yeah.
go with Vasily.
Yeah, Lenakis.
Lenakis, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, good job with that. I am actually here this evening to read a letter on behalf of the Thompsons, who are going to be moving in later this year. They're next door neighbors to us. I live at 7178 City View Drive. So I was asked to read this letter from Brian and Ewan Thompson, who currently live in Nevada while their home's being built and could not be here today to share their comments. So distinguished members of the Cottonwood City Council, wish to publicly express our sincere appreciation for consideration of including Tavachi in Cottonwood Heights city limits. We're looking forward to being a resident of the city between the canyons. What a great tagline and what a great location for a city. Having grown up in the mountains of Utah and after retiring in Cincinnati, Ohio, and living overseas, we knew we wanted to live in Salt Lake Valley. Having friends and family members in the Cottonwood Heights community, we knew this was a place we wanted to live. After much research about Tavachi and understanding its past, as originally part of the Cottonwood Heights community, we were thrilled to be able to purchase land and start a home build. We look forward to integrating into the Cottonwood Heights community, making new friends, volunteering, and giving back to this beautiful location and city later this year when our home is finished. Speaking of giving back, we wish to alleviate any concerns the City Council or citizens of Cottonwood Heights might have regarding our reliance on city services such as trash collection, snow removal, road and bridge repair. All these items are taken care of by the HOA and members of the Tavachi community. Conversely, the city will be receiving new revenue through our annual property taxes. It is our hope that any concerns the City Council or members of the Cottonwood Heights community might have towards the Tavachi community being a net drain, risk, or unappreciative of the opportunity to be associated as fellow residents of the city between the canyons will be put to rest, as you can see, as excited and eager citizens ready to be part of the Cottonwood Heights community and integrated from day one. Net, we hope you will approve this petition for reannexation. Respectfully, Brian and Ewan Thompson. So they couldn't be here this evening, and so they asked me to read this for them. I've lived on Creek Road the last 3 years while we're building the land up here, and City Council, Ellen, I can assure you that if we aren't registered correctly with the city government regarding the HOA. I've been paying into it for the last 3 years. I've been seeing the work being done firsthand by its members that are doing, a beautiful job of maintaining the roads and making sure that the place is clean and safe. Some of us, like myself, my parents were immigrants from Greece. They had to work really hard to get to where they're at. I got my first job when I was 12 years old. My wife works full-time, I work full-time, and we're not recipients of any trust. So we work really hard, and we just want to say we're really excited to be part of this community and hope that you guys will consider the reannexation. Thank you.
Thank you, Vasily. The next comment card I have is Michelle Lenakis. Hi, Michelle.
Thank you, and thank you for hearing our neighbors today. I consider myself a resident of Cottonwood Heights. My children attended Brookwood Elementary. They're currently at Albion Middle School. They'll go to Brighton High School. We use the rec center. We participate in Butler Days, and we have a lot of pride in our community. I and my neighbors in Tavachi share a lot of concerns that we all have here. And that's concerns about development. It's concerns about smart growth. It's concerns about access to the canyons. It's concerned about traffic and speeding in our neighborhoods. And we would really, and I would really like us to be part of the solution and partners in this. In fact, my middle school children, I hope that they have the opportunity to participate in Cottonwood Heights Youth Council so they can be part of the process and learn how government actually works and when it works well. And it's been said that the reasons why we want to annex, like I firmly believe that we would have better services. Chief Russo talked about the problems that can occur with being unincorporated. In fact, it wasn't a huge problem, but I experienced it last week when we had an alarm at our home, and it was 40 minutes for officers to get there. Fortunately, it wasn't a big deal, but if it had been an emergency, that could be a really long time to be waiting for service. I'm really hopeful that you guys will grant access to Tavachi and welcome us back into Cottonwood Heights. I also want to say that I think there was a question earlier about the HOA and how we maintain finances. Since we bought our lot in 2020, we've increased our HOAs. At that time, most of the lots were owned by the declarant, and there wasn't a big reserve in the HOA fund. Since then, since more individual private owners, we've voted as an HOA to increase those so that we can have a reserve for increased maintenance or increased costs that could come up as a concern in the future. So we take that very, very seriously and do not wish to be a burden on Cottonwood Heights, but we really wish to be part of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. The next comment card is from Lyndon. Is it Lyndon Smith or Landon? Lyndon. Sorry about that, Lyndon.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Thank you for listening to us this evening. My name is Lyndon Smith. I'm a proud resident of Tavachi. I was the 6th house to start building in Tavachi. I was the 7th to become a resident of Tavachi. I've been in there now just over 2 years. I am an active member of the HOA as well. So our efforts are certainly being taken care of, perhaps not being registered correctly. We will correct that. So apologies for that confusion. We have a very active budget process. We have, as Michelle was saying, desire to increase our reserve funds to cover for the eventualities of Tavachi. I think it's very important to state very clearly, not only do we have the bridge under our own management, we also pay for and maintain insurance for that bridge as well to cover for any eventualities. We had a significant earthquake here about 2 years ago, and the bridge was not damaged at all, and we did complete engineering studies of the bridge. So I want everyone to really understand that. We pay for our own snow removal services. I think Kerry explained why we pay for those services. We pay for all of our own landscaping, of course. We recently upgraded our lighting to the development as well, because we felt coming in and out of development onto what can be a very busy road, we needed additional lighting. Again, we covered that under our own expense. So we're very proud of our development. It's a beautiful area to live. I want to, hopefully, if you will allow me to put a hole in the back end of my lot when I'm no longer here. That's where I'd like to stay. But anyway, joking aside, it's a great pleasure to be here, and we hope you seriously reconsider our request to be re-annexed into Cottonwood Heights. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lyndon. Appreciate your time. The last comment card I have for this public hearing is Will McCarville. Come on up, Will. I will.
Good evening, council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'm Will McCarville. I live at 3607 Golden Hills Avenue. For me, the Tavachi reannexation depends on ironclad assurances that the citizens of Cottonwood Heights will not be called upon to finance repairs to a road that was built with 14 variances to county code. Now, 14 variances does not imply to me, a super robust construction. Since I doubt that ironclad assurances will be forthcoming, because nothing is forever, and I believe that Tavachi should stay with the county. And I have to say that I'm troubled by the allegation that the HOA was extinguished several years ago. I find that really troublesome. If true, this seems to show a lack of attention to detail that may be true in other matters as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Will. So Tim, any online comments, anything that
No.
you need to add to the record?
No, not beyond what I already submitted to the council from the applicant.
Great. So we are going to close the public hearing for the Tavachi annexation petition. So we're going to move on to item 5, and I'm excited for our youth to hear this. This might be a little bit more exciting. I see some of you with some heavy eyes out there, I think. But so we are going to move to what we call our staff quarterly reports. So we have a lot of different departments in our city. One of them is police, and one is fire. And the first report that we're going to hear tonight is from our police. We're going to have Candy Terry, who's our support services manager and is an administrative assistant, and our police chief, Robbie Russo, come up and do this report together. So Chief, take it away.
Well, first of all, that's a lot of pressure you put on us. Thank you. We hope not to disappoint.
So before we get started, I just wanted to tell everybody we are starting the application and process for Citizens Academy. So if anybody is interested in attending Citizens Academy, please contact the Records Department. It is starting February 28th and will run for 11 weeks. And it's every Wednesday night from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. here in the community room. And there is lots of fun things. I know Council Member Burrell joined us last year for it. And we would encourage other council members if you would like to join us. And anybody is welcome to attend. Any of the residents of Tavachi, if you would like to come join us as well, please give us a call and we can get you guys registered. Youth, you are more than welcome to come as long as you have a parent with you. So you are welcome to join as well. But we just wanted to remind everybody to join Citizens Academy. Okay. So we will start with our calls for service. In January, we had 1,379 calls for service, and on-view calls, we had 389. Our on-view calls are going to be traffic stops and anything that an officer sees. That's not the, I'm sorry, they're not dispatched to, sorry. Okay, and these are the calls for service that are broke down by districts. District 1 had 454, District 2 was 235, District 3 is 294, and District 4 is 228.
And I might remind some people who are new in the audience, reason District 1 is so exponentially high is because it has all the commercial area with, Target and Home Depot and those areas that generate a lot of calls and,
Thank you, Chief, for clarifying.
yeah, indeed.
It's a great district.
Here are our response times. So for officer travel time to get to a call from the time they are dispatched for priority 1 is 4 minutes and 4 seconds. Priority 2 is 5 minutes and 45 seconds, and priority 3 for the month of January was 4 minutes and 53 seconds.
Can you explain the
Remarkably-
difference between the priority 1 through 3 for those that are here?
Yeah, I was just gonna do that. So priority 1 is, the easiest way to think about that is, life is in jeopardy of some sort, or there's an injury, accident, or armed robbery, or something of that nature. Priority 2 would be, something, a burglar alarm, or, something of that nature, not an accident without injuries, that type of thing. And those response times are pretty remarkable. We know what they are, the rest of the valley, and I'm not sure anyone can beat us. Most certainly not 40 minutes. Oh, wow.
Okay, and our uniform crime reporting,
Candy, can you talk into the microphone just for those on?
sorry, I apologize. For the uniform crime reporting stats for January of 2024, we had 6 assaults, 5 burglary, 20 thefts, and 3 stolen autos. So we were definitely down from January of last year, which is always a good thing.
And we'll get to the traffic unit in a minute, but one of the things we can attribute this to is when you have more officers on the road, the proactive enforcement they do. And those same people that are driving, with opiates in their system, or driving intoxicated or impaired, are the same people who are committing some of these other crimes, and we're getting to them, before they can actually commit crimes. And we're very proud of that, and we're grateful for you supporting that.
Okay, so in January, we had 43 arrests. We were down because the thefts, we did not have as many thefts in January as we did in December. December is usually a very high month for us with thefts. So we're right back really where we usually are for arrests. And we did have 10 juvenile citations that were issued in January as well.
May I ask, that number, which is, nearly triple in December, is that both from shopping as well as theft off people's porches related to all the, Amazon deliveries and that sort of thing? I mean, can you kind of fill that in a little bit more?
Yes, we haven't broken them down specifically as to what arrests, are attributed to what. We can do that. We need more of a crime analysis type of a scenario to do that. But part of what you need to understand too is that this can be somewhat deceptive, because when my detective division files their cases, it depends on when the district attorney actually, pushes the case forward and we get the arrest warrants. And so it might not always be consistent depending on when the cases are filed and they're investigated and that type of thing. So, but yes, they are inclusive of all those type of crimes. And by the way, I hate porch pirates. So.
Okay, we had 402 citations issued, 243 warnings, and we had 13 DUIs.
So how does the
So we-
level of the number of warnings in this last cycle compare with a year ago?
I would have to go pull it up. I don't know.
I can tell you just anecdotally that they're pretty consistent. We issued the percentage of warnings to actual, what they call keeper citations, which require an appearance. The ratio is about the same. That doesn't change.
Yeah, I just was wondering if this is the data related to hiring the additional traffic officers. Because I thought that we would get a little bit of a comparison now that we have the officers compared to that same period, maybe last year, with having the additional.
Right. Well, and we're about to show you some.
Oh,
the
there's
stat
more.
that
Okay.
There is specific to the traffic unit, but the philosophy doesn't change. When people ask me all the time about getting talked out of a ticket, and I can tell you after 40 years, I've never been ever talked out of a ticket. I've sure been talked into a whole bunch of them. And so the discretion comes into play. We want to be fair with our citizens, and sometimes they'll see somebody come up to a stoplight and they're doing 2 miles an hour and as they roll around the corner, instead of coming to a complete stop. Maybe that's the education thing we don't want to.
Well, and I'm not in no way implying that I think warnings are negative. I hope you didn't interpret it that
No.
way. I was more kind of interested in, the sheer, volume of both warnings and citations compared to, the same time period a year ago.
So this slide, I think, is pretty representative. If you look, our traffic enforcement division was hired in November. And in November to January, we've doubled the number of DUI arrests, increased our warnings, almost doubled our citations.
Correct.
So just looking at this slide alone tells us that our police, this new traffic enforcement division is making a difference.
Correct. Yes, they actually went live the first week of December because they were in training the last 2 weeks of November when the traffic unit was formed. So that is correct, Mayor. Thank
Perfect.
you.
Thank you.
Here's the citations that are broke down by district. District 1, we had 163, District 2 was 87, 3 is 130, and District 4 was 179.
And so I want you to notice that because we paid, I know that that's a special concern to you, District 4 and Wasatch Boulevard, and especially during the winter and the ski season. People ask all the time, I want to see the police up there. Why, heck, I don't see the police up there? Apparently we're up there a whole lot because that's not even the business area. And look at the number of tickets that we wrote, and it's our traffic unit that we have up there doing that job. So
Accidents, we had 42 property and 10 injury accidents. Okay, here's our animal control. So total calls for service, they had 80. They had 28 animal control, 7 code enforcement, 45 traffic enforcement, and they issued 7 animal control citations, 1 code enforcement, and 53 traffic enforcement, which include parking citations during the snow event.
and as the city manager will tell you, you could triple the amount of code enforcement officers and we'd keep them all busy, with things, especially in the summertime and, the weeds and, cars parked on the lawn and things. Those guys are the hardest working people we have in the entire city. They do a good job.
Here is our traffic units stats for the month of January. They issued 386 citations. They conducted 340 traffic stops. They impounded 18 vehicles, 6 DUIs. They attended 38 accidents, 11 arrests. They also wrote 24 other reports and assisted 19 other officers with arrests.
So as we talked about, Mayor, it's difficult to measure a negative, but each one of those represents a potential life loss when you arrest the DUIs. And we take those cars off the road, not only for DUIs, but if you're an honest, hardworking taxpayer, you get rear-ended by someone who's uninsured and unlicensed, you don't appreciate that because you're the one paying for it. So these guys are looking for that and they're pulling those cars off the road if they're uninsured on our roadways and not properly licensed. So
We had 1 attended death and 1 unattended death this last month. Here is the heat map for all of the property crimes for January of 2024. You can see down in District 1 is where we have the majority, but again, that is because that's where our issues mainly.
I don't see anything down by Creek Road. Interesting.
Here's District 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and this is a heat map of all of the citations, as you can see, that were issued in the city. So you can see where the guys were hitting the roads. And I'm going to let Chief speak to this.
this is important to us. I think we're actually the only police department that does this, at least I know we are in the valley. The officers were asking for a support dog like the one behind me, but I gave him a baby instead. So one of our support services staff is pregnant. We adore her. We love her. She's a hard worker. She's smart. And we have a lot invested into her, and we wanted to change the paradigm in the workplace and in a police department. So that was an exercise room. I sold everything, kicked all those guys out. They can go to the rec center, and I built a nursery. And so she came back to work after her maternity leave, and you see the crib and everything in the background. I don't know if the crib has actually been used because that baby never gets set down. The guys pass him around, but it affords her an opportunity to come to work with her child and save the child care. And it's been actually really healthy for all of us being there, and we're pretty proud of it. So, and it also provides a room, when we have training sessions and other women who attend that regionally, that they have a place to have some privacy if they need the room. So it's something new to us, and we like that.
And my staff really, really enjoys it too. It's been very good. I'll just let you.
There are a lot that our officers do that, people don't know, and that they're unaware of outside of the police work. So we have Erin Stea. She is just a young 4-year officer with us, but she was quite a superstar in Utah Valley in women's softball. There you see her pictured there when she was in college. She was tuition was paid for. What's the word?
Scholarship.
Scholarship to play. And so she saw a need at Brighton High School that traditionally the men's sports are funded very well and they're supported very well. That always doesn't transfer. Having all daughters myself, I know that's not always transferred on the women's side, and Erin saw that too. And so she saw that she could support that program across the street. And so she volunteered to coach that team. And I promised, actually, because I coached my daughter's team, we are going to go sit in the stands, and I'm going to be that parent, who calls out the coach all the time. But she's going to be starting this spring, and we look forward to it. And we're very proud that she takes, not only does she do a fine job as an officer, but she's wants to be involved in the community. And that's just one example of many that our officers do.
Okay, so these are a couple of photos that our traffic unit went out and started doing an op. And you can see that in the slide here on the right. That is our officer in the black hoodie who is almost getting hit by a vehicle.
Well, you've heard comment tonight about people in crosswalks and trying to cross the street who narrowly been struck, and we hear them, and that is an issue, and we plan to address it aggressively. The bottom picture is one of a woman who was crossing on the east side of Highland and Fort, going over towards the gas station right where McDonald's is, and she almost made it to the other side when a car rounded the corner against the red light and hit her and ran her over, and she was underneath the car, and we had to use jacks to lift the car up to remove her as Unified Fire was arriving. So we are doing these ops that undercover officer would step out and try to cross, and they were writing about a ticket every.
Hold on, folks. We've got some swag for you. So those kids shouldn't leave yet.
So they were writing a ticket every 2 minutes, 3 minutes, every 2 minutes. They would get someone stopped for violating the pedestrian laws, and you'll be seeing more of that. We like that type of enforcement.
How many citations?
There were a lot. They were writing about every 2 or 3 minutes. They were writing a citation for someone who narrowly missed the officer. I tried to get him to actually put me as a beneficiary to his life insurance policy, but he wouldn't do it, but we're still gonna have him do it.
Okay.
Well, on the subject of the right-hand turners and the danger that they are to pedestrians, Council Member Highland brought to my attention, it's actually I guess considered, it must be considered holiday, but just north of our city where 6200, 6400 South comes into Highland Drive. They put up a no right-hand turn signal whenever the pedestrian activates the crosswalk. So I hid behind a column and I took videos of the cars that were approaching, eastbound on 6400 South. So I would activate the no right-hand turn light, it was a very prominent signal. And I would activate it, then I'd hide behind the column and I would video the cars. And they would come to the right-hand turn. And they would look around for a second, look up at the absolutely no right-hand turn, and then they would turn right. And about 50% didn't even come to a complete stop. They just kind of cruised through. So we do have a problem with motorists turning right. I mean, we know in other states, when I got my driver's license, I remember I got that in California where we were allowed to turn right. And I was in like Pennsylvania. And I was like, they don't know how to drive around here. They're sitting there. They're not turning right, on a red light. And I didn't realize that it was, a state law in other states in order to reduce the number of pedestrians that are injured. So I'm glad that you're, experimenting. I don't know if those lights are really as effective as maybe signs that say penalty for right-hand turn. Something that gets the attention of motorists to be safer, at these intersections.
Are you talking about where 7-Eleven is? And
Yes.
what's interesting about that is, I think one side is Murray, one side is ours, and one side is.
No, there's not a 7-Eleven there.
Yes, there's a
Yes,
7-Eleven on the northwest corner.
Northwest side, yeah.
Is there? Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that.
I've been in it multiple times.
Oh,
Yeah.
got it.
Drive that road every day.
That's close enough. I'll go down there.
Yeah.
We'll do the same thing there.
But I
Yeah.
think that's why it's there, is because now that the new hotel, it's so the people at the hotel can cross over to get to the 7-Eleven on the other
Good.
side of the road.
You're right, because that entrance to the hotel is just a little
That's why
offset
it's
from
there.
the intersection.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's right.
Okay. So we have a new program and I'm actually going to let Chief speak to this as well.
This is what you approved about a year ago. It's the Vigilant LPR's license plate reader. And what you see is in the little box, that's what pops up on our cell phones. As a car goes by, we have these passive license plate readers. They're cameras that are in the city, and we'd like to add more of them, but that car goes by and it'll pop up and it'll tell you wanted person, stolen car. It comes right up on their phones and in their cars. So if they're close at all, it'll alert them to it. We've had great success with it. We can track a car. In fact, one guy stole a woman's purse at Trader Joe's when she kept it in the cart and looked away, and they took the credit card and then they went to Home Depot and ran it up. But we were able to see the car and we tracked him all the way back to LA. And you could see it, which was unfortunate, but if he ever comes back into the state of Utah, it sends us an alert. Really neat technology. It's really cool. One of the other things it did was we had some of our porch pirates that I love, and they gave us an alert that there was one of the cars that we were looking for in World Market. The guys went down there and were able to follow it off and arrest them, and they lived in the Rise Apartments. Just down the street on 2030. They executed a search warrant and they were able to recover all the property that was taken. This is at Christmas time off those porches, and received a lot of praise from the postal inspector. And incidentally, you see, while they're there, we get a call from one of our citizens who said, "Hey, I just need a case number. I know you'll never find it, but somebody went into my garage and took my skis and my boots and everything. They were really expensive. I'm not happy about that." And they're reading it on their cell phone, and they look over in the corner of this house and guess what was there? So we put it in the car and we drove it back to them, and it was a friend of one of your planning commissioners who told me the story. And so the system works. It's a game changer. So for instance, if someone comes into your neighborhood and they're stealing mail or they do a burglary or do steal stuff off your porch and all you know is it's an F-150 and somebody saw part of a license number, you don't even have to know that. But you can just tell us the color, we can enter that into the system and how many F-150s are going up Timberland Drive, if you know, at 2 a.m. And it'll tell us what the plate number is. So we can track that and see where it is and where it's went. Very cool. This is Councilmember Holton's, one of his pet projects. We get, but it's not just him. I actually get a lot of complaints about this from citizens with some homeless people who camp out around our freeway off ramps and solicit up money. And that's not illegal. It's actually their First Amendment right that they're able to stand on the corner and hold a sign and request those funds. What is not legal is camping, and you see the messes that they make. That's we took that today, that picture. And it's not illegal for them to step into the roadway and accept money. Interesting enough, they come here and they say, we were in Salt Lake City, but we only get $1 when we come out in the street. But you go to Cottonwood Heights, they'll hand you a $10 bill if you stand on their off ramp. So we have them coming up here and they're camping. It is illegal to camp in Cottonwood Heights unless, interesting enough, there is some legislation that's called blue days. So if the temperature gets down to 15 degrees, including wind chill, then we are not allowed to actually enforce the camping and do anything about this just because it's cold and there's no place to put them. But the way we remedy it is very often they'll have warrants. If not, we cite them for the camping or stepping in the street. And then when the weather changes and we get cooperation from the Salt Lake Health Department and UDOT, we actually go in there and clean it up and bulldoze areas so they can't camp there anymore. But we will be paying more attention to it because I know Councilmember Holton gets a lot of concerned constituents who complain about that.
And a big reason for that is there are those communities that are on the west side of Highland Drive that live right there, and they're very, very close to this. So as you can imagine, if you live there, this would be a concern you'd call in a lot about.
Okay, so do you want to play the video?
Well, let me set it up first. So mental health issues. I know that's important to a lot of you here. People don't normally attribute a mental health population to Cottonwood Heights. They think it's in Salt Lake City or different parts of the valley. But I assure you, we have a population in every community. No family is exempt from it, and there isn't always the resources to deal with it. And let me show you this. The picture on the right is the.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, when it comes back up, you'll see the picture on the right. That's the one that the mayor is familiar with. It's a guy who was pointing this. It was a pretend gun, but he was pointing at the police and walking down the street. We got the call that he was pointing at motorists, and you never know. And what we're hoping to do is get to the people before it becomes a crisis, before they get to this point, before they have interactions with the police. And I'll explain how we get there in a minute. The one on the left is a situation up the street that you received a letter on from some of the residents last week complaining that nothing was being done with her and she was sleeping out on a mattress and they wanted the police are sort of the de facto, if you don't know what to do, call the police. But let me play the video and you can see what we deal with.
Mom. Mom.
That's just a sample, but she belong in jail? No, she doesn't belong in jail. She belongs in a treatment facility. I sat on CJAC committee, and one of the things I learned, is that if you find these people some dignified work or housing, get them on the proper meds, and get them to a place, they drop off the criminal justice radar, and you do not have repeat calls for service with them. And we had some money that council had appropriated some funds for a pilot program a couple of years ago, and we partnered with Huntsman and the VA and Uni and Salt Lake County, and we were able to, we know who a lot of these people are from the officers who go out and they handle the reports, and then we can forward that to the mental health unit and a social worker and then an officer, because it's dangerous for them to go alone. You don't know what you're dealing with all the time. But we were able to actually pick up these people and find them some resources. And surprisingly, our calls for service and our crime rate and everything went down because we were able to actually service them. Before, we would get a call and what are you doing? And very often they were taken to the jail, and it takes up the jail's resources because they're not equipped to deal with it. And sometimes they have committed a criminal offense and you actually have to take them to jail, but very often they don't, or you can find another alternative, or whatever they've done is just sort of a byproduct of what the underlying issue is. And my philosophy is I'd rather find them help and resolve that problem at that level. And I have to give a shout out to Representative Yeltsin because he has been so instrumental in helping me with this problem. The woman you see there, nobody would take her. Nobody would help me with it. And the neighbors were upset, obviously. That's why you got the letter. And he was able to make some calls. And I sent the officers over there. And pretty soon she was up in a facility with a bed and she's being treated. And we have not heard any more about her, but there's a lot of people just like her every day, almost on the log I look. Last night it was a woman who lives in our city who people were coming in through the roof. She'd already nailed all the windows shut because she was tired of that. Another woman, you're familiar with Mayor, who it was a horror situation and she didn't get the response that we were hoping for from Adult Protective Services, and we were looking into resources and hiring private attorneys, and the city manager was really good about finding me some money to hire, some private legal work attorneys to find a conservatorship. But no one saw her for a couple of days. So the code officers went up. She liked them. She trusted them. She went and opened the door for anybody else, but they went up to check on her, and she was dead, but she'd been there for several days. So what does that say when you die and nobody knows or cares? And we just shouldn't have any family. She just had us. And so we're hoping in the future to work on our mental health program and provide these resources to people. It's very sad and it's very real. When it was working, I know, I'm sorry if I'm spending a lot of time on this, but I can't tell you about the heartfelt letters I got from family members saying we were at our wit's end. We didn't know what to do, who to turn to. I found my child down at Pioneer Park, and so they were so grateful that we were able to intervene and help. So one of the roadblocks is when we go there, they call it a medical situation. And so very often we have to tax Unified Fires, ambulances and resources, and they have to come out and evaluate them. So now you've tied up the fire engine and the ambulance, and then they've got to run them to IMC or one of the hospitals, and they're in the emergency room. And there really isn't, it's not like they're bleeding and they haven't ingested drugs. It's just the way things have always been done, but it's not working. And the problem is then you take in your kid who needs stitches or, somebody have a heart problem and there's a waiting room, because the resources of the ER room are taken, or, fire gets a call on a full arrest, and that engine company's out, taking care of this other issue. And so they can respond. It's somebody else that responds. So you get a longer response time. So to that end, what Representative Ulyssen is doing is setting up some legislation where the officers, and by the way, we've already written this order. I have anyway. And so our officers now, if there's not an emergency medical need, we will put them in our cars, and usually they're cooperative and they're not under arrest, but then we can run them up to Uni or to the Huntsman people and get them in. And it frees up my officers too, because that process, instead of sitting in the ER room for everything for hours, and then these people get a bill from Gold Cross and they're already in a bad situation and they get this $3,000 bill, I can put them in my car and we can drive them and we're out in 20 minutes. So anyway, that's the long version, but I hope that was helpful.
So before you move off that slide, I'm just going to add a little bit of context because I actually issued a press release on that story on the right that actually got picked up, I think, by a couple outlets. Because when a gentleman's walking down the street, pointing a gun at motorists, and then as our officers arrived at the officers, and even though whether it looked like a toy gun or not, the justification to inflict violence was actually there, and our officers did not, and they diffused the situation and took him into custody without doing things that actually would have been justified. So I think we have to celebrate when our officers, when you don't shoot because somebody is pointing what you don't know is a toy gun at you, you're putting your life on the line. And our officers, thanks to you, Chief, are being trained the correct way. And anyway, I thought it was an amazing story. So thank you.
Mayor, I received requests from London on that press release that you did.
Great. I love it.
Yes, it went worldwide.
Didn't know that. Thank you for telling me that.
Okay, and our
Mom.
okay, there we go. Our last slide is our safety message for the month is dating violence. February is dating violence month. So if you or someone you know is in a relationship, these are some warning signs. So we will have those posted. And any questions for us?
Great job.
Just thank you.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
for
you.
all you do. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next staff quarterly report is for Unified Fire is going to be done by our Assistant Chief Riley Pilgrim. We're grateful for him and that he's our liaison, and you got 3 minutes, Riley.
I could do less than 3. All right.
No, just teasing. Take your time.
No, thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm excited to be up here. It's always a good opportunity just to revisit what we've done too as well in the last quarter. And just some of the, not necessarily significant calls, but it's things our crews are doing as well. So, for us in Conwood Heights, so from October 1st to December 31st, we had a total of 550 incidents. 202 of those are emergent, which is about 37%. So emergent calls, similar to what Chief Russo shared with priority 1 calls, is just lights and siren. There's an imminent threat or danger to somebody's life, property, or something that requires us to get there a little bit quicker than our just average, response with no lights, no sirens. And responding to those calls is one of the most dangerous things we do. We do it really well, but that's when our risk is also at its highest, is driving through traffic in an emergency. So something we are very careful with, and allow our captains the latitude to make that decision and use their discretion to also change a call to emergent if they hear details as they go en route that changes what dispatch has. So what we have here is our last couple of years in Conwood Heights, as well as our monthly comparisons for those years. So we're kind of, again, staying the course. Not a lot of difference as far as call volume goes. Looking back, even that last quarter of each year, 2020 we had a little increase, or 2023 in October, but other than that, things are staying kind of, again, average for our response time and our volume. So 2,200 calls for the year in Conwood Heights. As I track this and been the liaison for the last few years, like saying the data shows that there not a huge significant increase in those calls. So these are our most common call types over that quarter, tail end of the summer. So we do tend to get vegetation fires or outside fires still late into the fall months, so into often October. Structure fires, we had 4, and again, that doesn't mean a fully involved structure fire. That means just part of the house or home is on fire, a garage, a bedroom, whichever. So we did have 4 of those fires in Conwood Heights. Outside, just kind of random trash, whatever fires 2, vegetation fire 1, and special outside fire 1. And with this, we also worked closely with code enforcement as well. We've had an ongoing challenge with the compost pile, kind of off of Wasatch Boulevard and Fort Union, kind of tucked down in an area that you don't often notice unless it's really smoky. And so we receive a lot of calls in that area, especially from the neighbors who have to kind of live with that every single day. So our station 116, as well as our prevention individual, Dave Bradley, and code enforcement has visited with that landowner several times, made several visits to his property, came up with a mitigation plan, Luckily, we have a little bit of the winter weather that's going to help temper that for a bit, but we'll be right back on that in the spring when that potentially can become a problem again. So a lot of things too we do to be proactive. It was response in nature, but turned into more of a proactive approach to deal with this situation. So, but on average, 20% of our calls are fire related, and the other 80% are service calls or EMS. So here for this quarter, this is kind of our most significant calls, or our top 5 call types. So regular falls, that's a trip and fall out of bed, trip on trip on something in the home. Often this is our elderly population. So again, we offer resources. We're working closely with Salt Lake County and our aging and their aging services to help connect people when we also identify challenges or problems. And a lot of times they're not aware, they're not interested at that time to receive additional help until we can kind of help them understand the benefits of that. Sick person, that's just a wide variety of people who don't feel well. As highlighted in Chief Russo's report, the motor vehicle crashes responded 26 of those. And behavioral health, that's something that we see throughout the valley, but every community has their share of that, and it's a challenge. It's something that we too take very seriously. We try to find other resources as well, because just taking to the hospital isn't always the best solution for that. So we're also looking for innovative ways and ways that we can kind of address that problem. But it's definitely a challenge. And then just breathing problems, asthma, RSV, anything like that, where the code or the dispatch notes were a problem with breathing. And then just some of the other service-related calls we typically go on. So detector malfunctions, unintentional detector activations are our most common non-emergent call. We go on quite a few of those. A lot of these are just unmonitored stations where they get a false alarm. Sometimes it's a malicious. Someone pulls it, like you picture in a school somewhere else, they activate the alarm. Sometimes it's just a call. Someone saw smoke. Someone saw something that looked like fire. They call us. We check it out, and it turned out to be nothing. So public service, just whatever people call us for, we're going to go help them with, whether it's changing batteries, we get cats out of trees. That does happen. We do anything that people need help with that. Sometimes they're beyond their abilities to take care of themselves. But we're always happy to show up and make their day a little bit better. One thing that we always pay really close attention to is are we servicing Cottonwood Heights, and are you getting what you're paying for, right? And so right here, easily about 90% of the calls, first due responses are Station 110, 116. Midvale, obviously on the west side there, picks up a little bit on the west side than others. A lot of that's attributed to, as well as we use what's called the closest available unit, so AVL responses. And so the nice thing about with the fire service, especially here in Salt Lake Valley, is it doesn't matter whose city, whose engine, whose firefighters, if they're closer, they're going to your call. Because just it's more important to just get somebody there versus this city, this engine, that engine, right? We just want people to get to the call so we can start taking care of the problem. That's agreed upon amongst all Valley chiefs. The only exception to that's an ambulance. If there's a city ambulance that's closer, obviously we're going to send that. They always kind of get first priority because of the transport revenue and the things that brings back to their cities that their budgets are dependent on. But again, we're not going to compromise public safety either. If there's an ambulance closer, we'll send it. But our goal is to get apparatus, fire engines, fire trucks, ladder trucks, ambulances to your house without debating whose neighborhood or jurisdiction it is. We just want to get people help as soon as we can. So we watch this one closely. We want to make sure that we're covering our area, and we definitely are. Ambulances, just to kind of clarify, we have one ambulance in Cottonwood Heights, and our ambulances are more of a regional response tool. So we have ambulances strategically located throughout the valley, throughout Cottonwood Heights, Midvale, Holiday. The old way of doing it was an ambulance in every fire station that was somewhat ineffective, and our paramedics weren't getting the experience they needed. This actually provides better service, and it's a little less dilution on the system, and we're definitely hitting all of our calls. But yeah, this is something too we pay close attention to. During the ski season, we put a peak load ambulance available, so that means if we get calls at the canyon, it's not taking the ambulance from Station 110. It's taking an ambulance that's specifically designated for canyon transports. And so we use that to go back and forth because our ski resorts, both up Big and Little Collin Canyon, create a lot of call volume, especially this time of year. So we spend quite a bit of time traversing the canyons. And then this is another number we look at very closely, our response times. There's a few things we cannot control. That's dispatch. So dispatch has gotten a lot better and we can influence them, but we can't go in there and answer phones for them. So sometimes there's a delay with the dispatch call processing, but they're doing a pretty awesome job compared to where they were. The other thing we can't control is traffic. So a lot of times, especially here at Fort Union and some of the busier corridors, it is a little more time consuming for us to get from point A to point B when a call comes in. But we do our best. But right here it shows on average our 50th percentile is 459. So basically half our calls we get to quicker than that, which is pretty awesome. And then also our 90th percentile, 10% of that number is a little bit higher than 808. But for us in a city that's as busy as Cottonwood Heights, we still get there pretty quick. So that's something we look at closely. One of our goals and our standards to cover for this year was 10% improvement in our times, and we're seeing that in a lot of our stations. And the elements we can control, which is when the alerts go off in the station, we get to the apparatus a lot quicker and we're out the door a lot quicker. And that's the one thing we definitely have control over. So we're doing everything we can to improve that and improve our response time and make sure we're getting where we need to be as quick as possible. Call types or call volume. So this is just a scatter plot map. Again, Fort Union along the corridor, there's often our busiest areas. District 1, the commercial area, definitely gets a lot of call volume. With the heat map, you can see too, assisted living centers or care facilities typically too. Respond to those fairly regularly. So we do a lot of work with them as well, working with their staff and their facilities to ensure they're calling us when they really need us. Sometimes they call us when they just need help. But there's been times where we've been used to kind of augment their staffing because they're shorthanded and they need help with picking someone up or anything like that. We're always happy to do that, but we also are happy to help them find ways to be more efficient as well. So we work closely with all these facilities to make sure that the bases are covered there. So, and that's it for our report. Any questions?
Thank you.
Sure appreciate you, all your men and
We
women.
are unbelievably blessed in both police and fire. So thank you for all you do.
And one other thing I'll put a plug in real fast is we do have fire school coming up again. I believe it's tentatively scheduled for April 12th. So we haven't locked that down for sure. I think in the board meeting this upcoming next 2 weeks, we'll have that finalized. So if you haven't been, I know Ellen went. It's pretty awesome having her out there. And so if you're interested in going, we love having you out there. It's a great opportunity to kind of see what we do, get an opportunity to actually put on our turnouts, and you get to put out a fire, extricate a car, you do all sorts of cool stuff. So if you're interested in going, I'll work with Tim, but we'll make sure we get someone there from Cottonwood Heights. It'd be awesome. So.
I'll tell you, my screenshot on my phone is a picture of I just lost her name, Suzanne Harrison. And I in the full fire outfit with the mask and everything, and we're standing side by side, ready to roll. And it's such an amazing experience. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, so we'll keep working on that, and I'll get Tim all that information. So
Thanks, Steve.
awesome. Yeah,
Appreciate it. So we have item 5 on item 6. We have 4 legislative items that we're going to go through real quickly. I just did want to mention, besides the youth group that came to see us tonight, we have a Boy Scout here with us who's working on a merit badge. So thanks for being here. Hopefully you've stayed awake. And I know sometimes it's not the most fun and interesting thing, but tonight hasn't been too bad. Okay, so we're going to move on to, like I said, we have 4 legislative items as a council to consider, beginning with item 6.1, consideration of ordinance 408, adopting an amended budget for the fiscal year 2023-2024. We had a public hearing on this proposed amended budget during our last meeting in January. Any other questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 408, adopting an amended budget for fiscal year 23-24.
I motion to approve.
And I will second.
We have a motion to approve from Councilmember Highland and a second from Councilmember Holton. Final questions, call for the vote. Councilmember Holton,
Yes.
Councilmember Highland,
Yes.
Councilmember Burrell.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Item 6.2 is consideration of ordinance 409, amending code section 11.20.050 concerning prohibited parking of vehicles on our roads. We also had the opportunity to discuss this item in our previous work session in January and today. Any other questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 409, amending code section 11.20.050 concerning prohibited parking of vehicles.
Motion to approve ordinance 409.
I'll second that.
Motion to approve from Councilmember Holton and a second from Councilmember Burrell. Final questions, comments?
I think we might find that $100, well, I hope it's enough. Let's just say that, the new fine.
Good news is we can always revisit it.
Good news is we can always revisit, yes.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember Highland. Okay, I'll call for the vote. Councilmember Highland,
Yes.
Councilmember Burrell,
Yes.
Councilmember Holton,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Okay, item 6.3 is consideration of resolution 2024-08, ratifying the election of a mayor pro tempore. Let me just give a little bit of background to this. So, a mayor pro tempore is one member of the council who could fill in if I am unavailable to actually hold meetings and run a meeting and still actually be able to vote on legislative items like we just did. And so our statute says that we have the council submit a name by secret ballot. So we have all submitted a name to our city recorder, Paula Melgar. She's going to now look at those and determine who is going to be the mayor pro tempore when I am unavailable.
So first vote is Alan Burrell. Following vote is for, Councilmember Newell. Vote on Newell. Sean Newell. And last vote. Sorry. It's a sticky note. Really secret. Sean Newell. So we have
Great.
4-1.
So we have 4 people who would be amazing pro tempores, but so our Councilmember Sean Newell, who's not with us tonight, will be our new mayor pro tempore. Pro tempore is actually how it's pronounced. So we actually need to vote on this. So if I could get a motion to approve consideration of resolution 2024-08, ratifying the election of a mayor pro tempore.
Motion to approve resolution 2024-08.
Second that.
We have a motion to approve from Councilmember Holton and a second from Councilmember Highland.
And Mayor, you'll write in the name on that resolution, or we'll write that in, and it's Sean Newell.
No,
Yep.
correct. Correct. Okay, Councilmember Burrell,
Yes.
Councilmember Holton,
Yes.
Councilmember Highland,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Okay, our last legislative item for this evening is consideration of resolution 2024-09, approving a new bank account. And we discussed this item a little bit early in our work session as well, and what that bank account is needed for. Any other questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2024-09, approving a new bank account.
I'll motion to approve resolution 2024-09.
And I will second that.
Motion to approve from Councilmember Highland and a second from Councilmember Holton. Final questions? Call for the vote. Councilmember Holton,
Yes.
Councilmember Highland,
Yes.
Councilmember Burrell.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Okay, the last item on our agenda this evening is a consent calendar, which is approving the minutes from the city council work session and business meeting for January 16th, 2024. Got to get a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Our last item, well, at this point, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.